Got to do it. Okay. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Dignidad Literaria. How's it going? Thank you so much for being here. Y'all are awesome. My name is Matt Nelson. I'm the executive director of Presente.org, and where we build power, change culture, and stay presente. So it feels like we're in the right place. I was born in Colombia, grew up in Minnesota, so that makes me a proud Minolumbian, which is part of our wonderful, beautiful, complex Latinidad identities that we're celebrating today. We have a lot of good news to share in this press conference today, and a lot of incredible people behind me who are going to share it. And I just wanted to say that part of what brought us here is the power of our stories, and knowing that when we own our stories and when we understand and leverage our culture, that equates to political power, it equates to economic power, it equates to improving the daily lives for our communities and loved ones, because we care, and because we care enough to come to New York and demand bold, transformative change to some of the biggest publishing entities in the world. So that's what everybody's a part of. That's why Presente is honored to work with this incredible group of artists and writers to really make it happen. And so with that, I want to introduce our first incredible speaker, Miriam Gurba, who really kicked this whole incredible organizing off. Please give her some love.
What was the term you used to describe yourself?
Minolumbian.
Okay, in that spirit, full disclosure, I have a Polish grandparent, so sometimes I call myself a Moloch, a Mexican Moloch. So I'm right there with you. Okay, so Roberto, David, and I came to New York on a restorative and reparative mission. We invited Flatiron to work with us. We generally ask them to work with us to build a bridge. And people of color, in our case Latinx people, know a thing or two about work. We provide much of the labor, both intellectual and manual, that sustains the United States. Black and brown wallets have the power to make or break the American economy. In the spirit of our mission, I'd like to share some words that were not written by a Latinx author. This writer, however, speaks to us from across the centuries, exquisitely addressing the crisis that brings us to this point of cultural inflection today. Prospero, you are the master of illusion. Lying is your trademark, and you have lied so much to me, lied about the world, lied about me, that you have ended by imposing on me an image of myself. Those are Shakespeare's words. Even he understood the dilemma we find ourselves in. We came not only to extend an olive branch to Flatiron, we came to offer our assistance in restoring the dignity of all parties harmed. We offered Flatiron a chance to wipe away the mugre, to wipe away the dirt. Our goal here was justice, and I believe we are on the right path toward achieving it. Thank you.
All right. So now to get into some of the details from we just came from 2 hours meeting on the 26th floor up there with the big dogs from Macmillan and Flatiron and other publishing entities. And here to report back on that meeting is David Bowles, who's going to talk about what happened.
Thank you. Now, as a lot of you guys know, I'm an author, translator, professor, Mexican-American, Chicano, and my people have long memories. We remember, yesterday was the anniversary when the border crossed over our people. We remember when our land was usurped from us. We remember the mass deportations, la matanza, all the lynchings. We remember school segregation. Our memories are long, and we see the writing on the wall when people are turning against us. But we don't lower our heads. We stand proudly and tell them, basta no más. That's what we've done today. In the publishing industry, we are facing a massive problem, the Latinx community is. The editorial staff at the big 5 publishing firms is overwhelmingly 85% white. 2% of the editorial staff is Latinx. People of color make up in this country 37% of the population. Latinx are half of that. Yet, every year published by Latinx, how many books? Less than 3%. And so we have to make a stand. We have to fight, not for representation or diversity or any of those hollow catchphrases that people keep using again and again as a band-aid to try to fix the situation. We have to fight for equity, for dignidad. And that's what we were trying to do today. We don't want hollow promises. We want real action. We came to the table with some specific ideas on how to build in greater representation in Macmillan, both in terms of titles and in terms of the actual editorial staff and staff throughout the business. And we are super happy to announce that Macmillan has acceded to those ideas. They have agreed with us, and we've got a way to move forward now. And I want to go ahead and read to you textually what that agreement is so that you can have an understanding. Pursuant to today's nearly 2-hour meeting, Macmillan and Dignidad Literaria discussed our fervent desire to move the industry forward and to find common ground. Our next steps include, on behalf of Macmillan, committing to substantially increase Latinx representation across Macmillan, including authors, titles, staff, and our overall literary ecosystem. Yes. 2, we commit to developing, this is Macmillan talking, an action plan to address these objectives within 90 days. 3, we will regroup within 30 days with Dignidad Literaria and other Latinx groups to assess progress and to show accountability to the Latinx community for the things that we're dedicating ourselves to do, benefiting from an open dialogue and exchange of ideas. This is a clear victory for nuestra gente.
Woo. Yes.
Yes. Your voices were heard. The way you organized so quickly and so organically around our outrage and disappointment at the publishing industry for running roughshod over us and for telling our stories, not just in voices that are not our own, but in ways that are disrespectful and inaccurate, right? So we think this is a move in the right direction. We thank Macmillan for reaching out to us and asking us to come to New York and sit down with them. We appreciate the time they've given us, but we're going to hold them accountable. And when we come back in 30 days to sit with them and to hear what they have been looking at in their industry and the ideas that they've got, we're going to insist that those be substantial. And at that point, we'll come back to you guys and we'll talk about the progress towards that 90-day deadline for an actual concrete plan. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn things over now to Roberto Lovato, who is just a powerhouse and a man I've grown to love in these couple of weeks, platonically, fraternally. Roberto?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to everybody. My name is Roberto Lovato. I am the author of a forthcoming book called, hold on. Let me try it again. My name is Roberto Lovato. I'm the author of a forthcoming book titled Unforgetting, a memoir of revolution and redemption. And we have redeemed ourselves as Latinos in the United States today. We are declaring a victory that will be detailed along the way, along the lines David said. I'm also the co-founder of Presented.org and a former strategist that came out of retirement to help do the right thing. And you can read my book, it's How We Learn Strategy. I'm here to speak about how the Latinx community in the United States is on its way to entering the national conversation of the United States. Not just in publishing, but in media, in Sunday talk shows, in all the venues in Hollywood that we're excluded from systematically by racism. But before anybody asks me or us about Janine Cummins, let me say 2 things. First of all, at this stage of the crisis in U.S. publishing, Janine Cummins is irrelevante. Irrelevante.
Yeah.
Okay? This is not about Janine Cummins. This is about us. Reducing the fight of nearly 60 million people in the United States to the doings of a single white woman who steals and screws up our stories is not just simplistic, but racist. Our fight is against the systemic racism and exclusion of the industry that created her, while also denying us the opportunity to tell our stories. Secondly, I want to speak as a Salvadoreño, a U.S.-born Salvadoreño, journalist and writer who has traversed the immigrant trail for almost 30 years. I know what it is to see what happens when a bomb made in America drops on an adobe brick house full of children in El Salvador. I know what it is to be hunted by U.S.-backed Salvadoran death squads and other murderous cowards on both sides of the border, just as the migrants are hunted by gangs, by militaries, and by border patrol from Honduras to Guatemala and El Salvador to Mexico and finally to the United States. And I know what it is to see children fleeing terror have their tender skin shredded by barbed wire. From this perspective, I cannot fathom how a writer or a major publishing company or anyone can celebrate a book launch with centerpieces made to look like barbed wire fence or a border wall. But let us be clear, this is not just a problem for Flatiron or Macmillan. This is a problem of the entire industry. The good news is that we now have a victory to point to that starts moving us beyond the barbed wire fence that the publishing industry has put between Latinos and themselves, between our stories and the world audience that awaits us. And so we are done with being the tropical sidekicks of the U.S. national conversation, in journalism and in all other aspects. So our mission as Dignidad Literaria is simple: to lay siege to the barbed wire border wall of U.S. publishing that silences, excludes, and humiliates us with impunity. These are the forces of Indignidad. In the coming week, just to let you know, esto no ha terminado. La lucha continúa. The struggle continues. We're just starting, and we're starting on the right foot with a major concession from a global corporation that's proven itself to us in our meeting that they're serious about making serious change, structural, institutional change, to hiring and contracting books and editors, and we're very encouraged. So in the coming week, this week, you will see 11 cities in the United States mounting actions and dialogue about the crisis in U.S. publishing and Latinos, right? So, like I said, this is far from over. And we'd also like to invite Oprah Winfrey, major publishing houses, and others to cease any diversionary tactics that take the focus away from Latinos and the crisis in U.S. publishing. Again, this is not about a single white woman writer and a barbarian horde of censorship. This is about Latinos and this titanic industry that's now on the verge of changing. This coming March, hundreds of poets, novelists, and Latina writers will descend onto the Association of Writing Programs Conference, the largest single literary conference in the United States, and we will stage multiple actions there. And so that's just the beginning, and so we have another announcement we want to ask Matt from Presente.org to share with you. Thank you.
Yes. So just to be clear, we got substantial commitments across the company for them to do better. And we got a commitment to continue to meet with us so that we together can hold them accountable to what they're committing to. And we got a commitment of a detailed plan in 90 days to see what the path is to transform this industry. So let's just y'all did this. Yeah. Y'all did this. And the co-founders did this. So this is truly the power of the people, and the power of the pen, and the power of artists. And Roberto mentioned 11 cities starting this week. That's at least. We have more coming in every day. And if people want to host an event, because part of this is to continue the conversation, is to show how we show up as artists, as writers, how we talk to each other, how we transform our communities through our organizing. So if you want to host an event, you want to attend an event, you can text the word dignity or text the word dignidad to 225568. That's 225568. 5568, either the word dignity or dignidad, and you can host or attend your event, because let's make this big. So with that, and in that spirit, we now have some more incredible artists to come up. Oh, yes. Thank you. I thought it was the other announcement. I have two announcements to make. So the other announcement is that we are calling on Governor Cuomo in New York to direct the Office of Human Rights to start looking into what's going on in this publishing industry. Because the Office of Human Rights can start seeing, like, hey, is there discrimination here? Is there other patterns and practices that we should be concerned of? Are there civil and human rights violations happening industry-wide that the office can put its investigators on, its researchers on? And so we are engaging with we're calling on the governor to direct the Office of Human Rights to do this type of inquiry. So with that, I'd like to bring up Alicia Anabel Santos.
Sure. Hi, Jude.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Alicia Anabel Santos. I am a writer, playwright, an Afro-Dominican lesbian storyteller. And I'm here actually to speak on behalf of the Dominican Writers Association with Angie Abreu, the founder, and I'm the founder of the New York City Latina Writers Group. And I wrote some words that I want to share. So on behalf of the Dominican Writers Association and the New York City Latina Writers Group, and in solidarity with the members of Dignidad Literaria movement, we thank you all for being here, for showing up, for knowing how important it is to come in solidarity. We believe that the U.S. publishing industry must be held to a social and moral standard when it comes to acquiring stories written about people of color, with close attention being paid to how these stories are packaged for the world. With the current state of society and our politics, we demand that publishing houses be more aware and sensitive about who gets to tell our stories. There are over 800 Latinx writers in the New York City Latina Writers Group alone that the publishing industry is not aware of. And the Dominican Writers Association has a membership of over 1,500 writers. You mean to tell me that between 2,300 writers, you can't find a writer, a Latinx writer who can read a story? It is about access and getting through the gate. The problem here isn't solely that American Dirt is a poor misrepresentation of Mexicanos and the immigrant experience. It is the damage and the pain that stories like these inflict on our communities when they use offensive tropes and perpetuate the Latinx community as savages who need saving. Visibility in today's soundbite media saturated society is dictated by gatekeepers, and the publishing industry is sending a dangerous message that only white writers are qualified to tell all stories. Representation does matter. Our stories matter. The novel Dominicana, written by Angie Cruz, was also published by Flatiron on September 3rd, 2019. What was her marketing strategy? How much was budgeted? How did they decide the budget for Dominicana in comparison to American Dirt? Are books written by people of color marketed only to people of color, and so the budget must be lower? And do books written by white authors automatically get the larger budget? The Oprah cosign, the Stephen King and Julia Alvarez blurbs. Our message is for those emerging, mid-career, Latinx, queer, Black, trans, POC, Indigenous writers. We must keep writing. We must hold the industry accountable for the ways they attempt to erase us. Luchemos por la dignidad literaria siempre. Thank you. Also, we want to announce that we are hosting a town hall this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at Word Up Community Books at 2113 Amsterdam Avenue. It's titled Writing Against the White Gaze. We would love for you all to come. We want to fill the house, so please show up. Thank you all for being here today.
Now, on behalf of we West Coasters who crossed the Appalachian Mountains to be with you and to take this struggle to New York City, we need to acknowledge the fact that the Nueva York community stepped up for us during our time here and throughout this campaign. I want to especially make just a couple of people, one Dominican, one Puerto Rican, Angie Abreu and Dominican writers who absolutely stepped up. And David Galarza, a man who in any Puerto Rican circle and non-Puerto Rican circles and labor circles is a known entity for his subversive condition. So we thank you for your subversion. Now, with that, we want to close and share someone and something that illustrates what this is all about. We're all writers, and we're all sore because we're talking as kind of activists right now, but we're actually writers, all of us. And so here to speak for us, the writers, for the poets, for the novelists, for all these excluded voices, we thought we would bring someone to you who in New York needs no introduction, but by way of introduction, let me introduce Claridad de la Luz, Puerto Rican, a writer, performer, who despite her youth was among the first to really claim the Bruja label for herself before it became popular, and someone who speaks truth to power and speaks love to community. So with that, please see what this is about. These are the voices that are coming to the United States. These are the voices that will not be stopped now. And with that, Claridad de la Luz, La Bruja.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, to me, it feels like 1492 every single day. And it's really the irony of living in a country that the states are named either Native American names or Spanish names, and yet we can't even celebrate our own culture or speak our own language. It's psychopathic, I think. But in Puerto Rico, I'm a New Yorican. And I come out of the New Yorican Poets Cafe. I still host events there. So I do a beatniks night tomorrow night, the first Tuesday of every month. And the reason I'm even a New Yorican is because Puerto Rico is the only colony of the United States. And my family was displaced because of the army base that was built there. So displacement and gentrification is something that my family has dealt with for generations. And I'm here to represent for my people, for my island, and for all of our people. I heard there was a rumor that her next book will be about Puerto Ricans, since now she's claiming her Puerto Ricanness. Meanwhile, we've been here all along. Poor to rico is what I'm talking about. But this poem, it's short, it's a little bit, it's called If Anybody's Interested. There's a long list of names spoken over walls of silence. In a world of violence, the tyrants don't get tired. Our brains are rewired to follow roads to nowhere. People growing scared because life's unfair. Complacent, but silently we care. Afraid to make a statement. I declare, don't be a mental slave on the plantation. Divided segregation, displaced like First Nations. Suicide statistics are high in elevation. Children still in cages. Bare minimum wages. We're forced on reservations. This is gentrification. Drug and liquor integration, militarization. Sex sells on every station. It's a third eye invasion. Terrorist interrogation, modern day enslavement. The color of your skin is under investigation. Racial condemnation. Ego inflation. Superiority complex implementation. Stop and risk statistics. Stop and frisk statistics are rising for the innocent. But if you aren't interested, don't listen to this gibberish. Forget the politics of this matrix that we're living in. It's all part of the system, and it's always gonna be like this until we start dismantling the roots of white privilege.
Yeah!
Thank you. Que viva la verdad. Que viva las brujas también.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we look forward to continuing to work with everyone.
We'll do questions from the media.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I was. So they agreed that in 90 days they would have an action plan to increase levels of Latinx diversity.
That's right. So in 90
on both
days,
sides,
they
right?
agreed to have a plan in 90 days to make sure to hold them accountable for that. They also agreed to come back to the table with us in 30 days so they could show us their progress to that point, and then we can kind of reassess or whatever. And at that point, be able to come back to you guys and talk to you about how they're progressing towards that goal.
So, but I'm saying is that plan the 90-day plan, right? And again, it's to increase representation as well, both in terms of editors,
Right.
buyers, agents, all that
And
kind of
it's
thing,
not-
as well as published.
And it's not just limited to Flatiron, it's Macmillan
The
wide.
Macmillan Vine,
So you're
Right.
talking about one of the largest global publishing companies in the world
Right.
making a commitment to the Latinx community.
Right, both in terms of who they employ, but also
Also in
who they
terms of the
employ.
titles.
in terms of titles.
Exactly.
So are they committing to different metrics, or
This is that's what we have to come back in 30 days. What they are committing to is doing that. The mechanism for doing it is what they've got to work out. They definitely want to do it. They're adamant about how important it is. But because of the size of the company and all the different, the different imprints and so forth, they've got to find the best way to affect that change.
Right.
And so they're going to be assessing over the next 30 days and beginning to sketch out ideas of what they're going to do. Come back to us. We'll give them some feedback on what they've come up with, and then they'll continue developing that
So there's
plan.
an ideological commitment.
Yes,
right.
there is an ideal.
So then, by the end of 90 days, they're going to be like, "This is what this,
This is what it is."
ideological
Yeah, exactly.
look
That-
going
this
to
is
look
what-
like.
Anybody that knows
in
publishing
metrics.
knows that publishing is a notoriously slow industry. Just
Yeah.
look at how long it takes to publish a book. So we, in our efforts to try to, meet them at some, we agreed. Okay, 90 days is realistic and serious to us, given what our contacts in the publishing industry have told us.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the 30-day regrouping accountability gives us the comfort level to be able to go, okay, where are we? And the whole world is watching now what Macmillan's going to do. So
And Macmillan's not the only one that we are asking to raise the standard and transform how they do things.
This is industry-wide.
Right. So, essentially, at the end of 90 days, you want to see a
Right.
plan.
Yes, we want to see a
an
plan.
action,
Yeah,
actual
right.
plan.
And after 30 days, we want to see we'll have a sense on how this is shaping up,
Yeah.
and how it is aligned with their substantial commitments that they made.
Yeah, so how are we going to translate ideology into metrics, right?
Yeah.
And so that should start to clarify within 30 days, but within 90 days, it should come into a sharper focus.
Okay. And then in terms of the governor's, calling on the governor to have the office, the
Yeah,
rights
invite-
office,
yeah.
have you been in contact with the governor's office, or is it, okay?
no, not yet. We know that instrument is there for the community to use, and it just happens that most of U.S. publishing is
It's in the state of New
here.
York.
We have something we call the Appalachian problem in publishing right now that we want to eviscerate. When you have an industry centered in New York, it's on this side of the Appalachian Mountains, when the vast majority of the Latino community is on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains, especially the Mexican and Central American communities.
Right.
So they were very interested in hearing how they could affect game-changing moves to start helping us eviscerate the Appalachian problem.
Other questions?
Are you folks meeting with any other publishers?
At this point, we don't have any plans yet, but we are looking to open dialogues with people. Yeah.
How confident are you that this will work? I'm confident that we will see a significant commitment along with quantitative metrics within 90 days. I have a measure of confidence.
I'm confident in the power of the Latino community to step up and fight for its rights.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that is what's going to determine game-changing shift in the publishing industry. If the Latino community continues to step up actions in 11 cities, multiplying that to 20 cities, 25 cities, being online, being vigilant so that your voice is included. So really, we have to ask ourselves, you have to ask yourselves, how much am I willing to step up so that my voice is included? And to that degree, I think we've proven in the last 2 weeks, our community está con ganas de darse duro. Y a los perros.
Yeah.
That's a Salvadoran phrase, I'm sorry.
And the other piece of this is it's clear that they know they have to make substantial changes. And it was clear from the meeting that they knew they had to go on a different path, that this, the tremendous organizing behind it, the hundreds of thousands of people speaking up on this issue, shows and reinforces that they need to change how they do business, and they're going to change. So I'm confident that there is alignment on they have to do a lot better for the Latinx community, and that we'll be there every step of the way to help shape that and help push them in the right direction.
They definitely want to have a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue with us. They made that very clear, that they want Dignidad Literaria and the Latinx community to be in that dialogue, and that's why they agreed to this 30-day accountability meeting, so that we can make sure that we continue to insert our voices into their internal conversations about mechanisms and metrics.
I want to add one thing for those who are listening and who are observing this, who kind of try to understand this as something about representation or simply getting authors new book deals. That's kind of an absurd notion when you consider the relationship that I saw in places like El Salvador, where when somebody would make an announcement on television and tell the story of someone, that they were a piricuaco or some other, demeaning, dehumanizing name, that person during the war ended up dead. There's a direct relationship between the story of a people and the exploitation, torture, and killing of that community, the caging, the separating of that community. So this is about changing the story of Latinos in the United States and of the United States itself. It's going to have to start translating us, because we didn't translate Dignidad Literaria, because that's not our job. You figure it out.
I have a question. Can y'all offer some love to folks who are so scared to speak up, those who are getting published, Latinx authors who are on the come up, who are afraid to use the hashtag to say what they really feel about the book, to write a piece that could take somebody completely out, that they cancel a fucking book tour, right? Yeah. What can we say to those people and Latinx folks who are in publishing, in the industry, who are complacent and not speaking up? What can we say to these folks to help them understand how important it is that they join this?
I would say draw courage from your siblings. Just look around. Look at all of the Latinx people around you that are standing with you. You're going to be okay. Say what needs to be said. Speak truth to power. Retaliation against you will be met with resistance from the Latinx community at large. I don't want to say I dare someone, but I kind of do. Try to take one of us down for speaking out, and I think that everybody will come out in solidarity and back us up. And I don't think we're going to let it happen.
I'm going to offer this too. I'm an itty-bitty queer lady who teaches high school, right? And I spoke out against the publishing industry at the risk of potentially never being published again. And I don't give a shit, right? If I need to, I'll put out zines. I'll write my next novel on a tortilla. I don't care. I'll do what it takes, right?
Yeah.
And I've gotten death threats and more death threats. And I just have to look at them and say, this is what it feels like to be a very tiny, yet somehow
very scary
lady, right? I'm 5'4" right now, but that's because I'm wearing 3-inch heels. I'm small. And if a person this small and this quote-unquote insignificant can cause these many waves, so can you.
Yeah, amen.
I would say that's what the open mics are for. That's where I started, and it always gave me a platform. That's why I still host them. If you follow me, La Bruja NYC, I post up all the open mics, and I've been performing over half of my life successfully as a spoken word artist, and still have not gotten any publishing deal, but I keep going. We use our voice no matter what, and that's it. Just whether it's written or whether it's not written, as long as we speak it into existence, we will make the change.
And from Presente's point of view, and to you and to the other artists and writers, there are 500,000 people around the country, or 500,000 members have your back, and we believe in you. We believe in that power, and it's not that culture is separate from organizing and from political work. We're actually very much we have to contest in that arena, just like we contest in other political arenas. And I think part of this is bringing culture and culture makers closer to the organizing work, because that's how we'll win. Not just win the policy, but win the story, and then win our power back so that we can make transformative change, because that's what it's about.
So, any other questions?
Were there any other speakers or like representatives from other organizations at the table, and did they make any commitments or sort of give any comment?
No, the only people at the table were people internally from Macmillan, representatives of like different divisions and so forth, a representative of their PR agency, Pinta, that they've hired to represent them. And on the phone were people from Oprah's O Magazine, from her production company, Harper Productions, and I believe somebody from the Oprah Book Club. So those were the only people that were involved in the conversation. That's good. So they were mostly listening because they just wanted to see what they could take away and bring back to Oprah to help maybe inform her decisions. But at the end, they did step in to bring up the fact that in O Magazine they have a section in which they try to spotlight diverse voices, and they have talked about Latinx titles. And I said that's very good and it's laudable, and we respect you for that. But the readership of O Magazine pales in comparison with the people who hear the announcement that Oprah makes about her pick of the year. There's never been a Mexican or Mexican American chosen out of the 82 books. Only one U.S. Latinx person has been selected, a Haitian American author, never a Spanish speaker. There have been 2 Latin American authors who have been selected, Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Isabel Allende. There was a pushback at one point from some data that I had written by the people in the book club, where they're like, wait a minute, well, we also have, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I'm like, he's not a U.S. Latino. Please, like, there is a difference between being Latin American and having a book published in translation in the U.S. and being a U.S. Latino who gets to write a book, right? So we clarified that for them. Their input was minimal, and it was just really more about listening and trying to gauge the direction that this conversation is going, hopefully to influence Oprah. And Roberto did make it clear to them that we are definitely interested in Dignidad Literaria, and the people that we represent, our community, are interested in sitting down, not with Janine Cummings. We don't want to talk about American Dirt anymore, but sitting down with Oprah and all these other industry people to have extended conversations about what they can do to support us and lift us up, instead of continuing to hold us down with the tips of their fingers.
So at the table you had
at the table
Oprah
were
people on the phone?
On the phone were Oprah people.
Yeah.
At the table were just Macmillan people.
Yeah.
And their PR. Yes, Don Weisberg was at the table, who's the president of Macmillan USA, and the other major person at the table was Bob Miller, the head of Flatiron. And then there were heads of a couple of other of the imprints and different editors, and Vice President Jennifer Gonzalez, for example, who's head of sales and stuff like that.
Just that was a meeting that's never happened in the Latino United States.
Yeah.
And then Oprah's people.
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting intersection, but there weren't people from other publishing houses, and there weren't people from other Latinx organizations. It was Dignidad Literaria with the people who were working with Macmillan.
I'm sorry.
And Presente, of course, yes, I'm sorry.
Dignidad Literaria was just born. I mean, it was born out of this timing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dignidad Literaria is...
It was born out of actually the Association of Writer Programs
desire to...
We created the hashtag to organize Latinx writers to go to
AWP.
the AWP conference in March. But then Miriam Gerber, and all her brilliance and passion, just exploded on the scene and made us all aware of this book that represented so much in the context of the Latino United States. And then we figured, hey, you know what? Let's just extend the brand and the movement to include it. And we can talk, by the way, we can now start talking about movement. I've been a student of movement for some time, despite my youth. And the thing that defines a movement are victories. It's one of the quintessential things that defines a movement is when you have tangible results. And we're going to have tangible results coming out of this. And that means this has legs, and this will continue.
And I know some of you from your chamber counts, but can you repeat your name?
Of course.
Just to have it.
So I'm David Bowles.
Matt Nelson.
Miriam Curva.
Roberto Loato.
Alicia Melissa.
All right, so the final questions.
Before we wrap things up,
Otherwise,
it's cold.
we're
My
happy
feet
to
are
talk
getting really cold.
individually and
I'm
thank you to our group.
guys, I'm from South Texas. This is like this cold.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you at the events.